maybe if you have any pride to do that, whatsoever, you can always say, I release all resistance to balance this. I release all resistance to ask for forgiveness or to apologize, or to forgive.
I release my
Step by step.
pride. Yeah. I release my fear to be the wrong one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I release my need to always be right. Or I release my fear of punishment. There's so many layers that would come up. And instead of noticing them, you speak it out and you really release it. And that's extremely powerful.
Welcome to the Space Holders Medicine Podcast. We're your hosts, Malvina and Stephanie. This podcast is a sanctuary for space holders to delve into the unique medicine they offer. Each episode will explore their personal journeys, diverse modalities, and the profound experiences that inspire and shape their work. Join us as we uncover the transformative power of their craft. Enjoy!
Let's do beautiful affirmation and prayer for this, for the attention,
Yes, we ask Divine Providence to please guide us, show us, tell us, lead us, speak through us for the highest good of ourselves, for the highest good of all.
May we add as much value as possible to all living beings. And thank you that we can get together and do this with Malvina and Stephanie. May all our hearts and spirits be aligned, and we align with ourselves, and we align with the highest source of all that is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Space Holders Medicine Podcast. My name is Stephanie, and this is my co-host, Malvina. Today, I am so excited to be sharing with all of you my very first teachers in this realm of spirituality and personal growth, Heiko and Selina.
Hello, Stephanie. So happy that we are here. Hello. Malvina, thank you for having us.
It's an honor and a great pleasure. Great joy to be here, really. Thank you for doing this.
As trailblazers in the Lindwall Releasing Process, Heiko and Selina Niedermeyer have earned global recognition for their extraordinary ability to guide individuals across 23 countries in transcending profound pain and suffering. So through their private sessions, dynamic group workshops, and also transformative retreats, which I have personally been on, they've empowered a diverse range of people to break free from limiting patterns and also to unlock their fullest potential. Their expertise have been also sought after by entrepreneurs worldwide, with high-impact seminars delivered in multiple countries. And Heiko and Selina have also generously donated their time, expertise to organizations that support vulnerable populations, including those of cancer, addiction, and domestic abuse. Their unwavering commitment and dedication to the healing work, to empowering others across the world, and also to service has truly solidified their position as visionary leaders in their field, highly respected for their profound impact. For me personally, Heiko and Selina allowed me to see myself as clearly as I have ever been, and it's because of them that I understood what love meant, and also what to love myself and to love others really means. It's work with them that has inspired me to be doing what I'm doing today. So thank you so much, Heiko and Selina.
Thank you so much for having us. It's such a great joy and a really great honor. And I think it's totally beautiful what you're doing.
Yes.
Both of you.
It's been a privilege to be part of your journey, actually. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. To begin off, could you share a little bit about yourselves individually and what drew you both onto this path of doing releasing together?
Looking for true meaning in life, looking for the divine, was actually always there since I can remember. It was always there. And I remember that as a teenager, I realized, I wrote it in my journal, which I never thought I would share with anyone. I realized that I have a divine core within myself, the divine spark that is my true self. And that core, so to speak, that essence is covered with layers like fear, worries, layers that don't let that light shine out. I became very, very aware of that. I know the very essence of that inner self, divine self, was love, but there's stuff around it. And I wrote that down, that it doesn't let that come out. And I realized the more I release, and that's what I said, the more I release, that was before I met my teachers, the more I release those layers, the more that inner light is able to shine out. And I still remember, like, with a strong wish, I wrote down, like, I want to release all the layers. And then a few years later, then I met my teachers, Isa and Yolanda, Dr. Lindwall and Yolanda Lindwall, who were inspired and created the Lindwall Releasing Process. So I met them, and they talked about exactly the same thing, that we have an essence that is divine. They call it the small x, while Great Spirit, the universe, is the big X. And so we're all small x's, one with that big X. And they made it beautifully simple. And the more we release, the more the true self showed. For me, it was, that's exactly what I want. What I didn't have until then was how to release. Now, that was the most important part for me. I knew there was something I want to release, and I saw other people who want to release something. You know, everybody tells you, like, you got to let that go. Yeah, but easier said than done, right? Yeah, even if you know what it is. And that was so wonderful, a life-changing day for me when I met them and they introduced on a workshop freedom through releasing, the releasing process on how to release that. So that was a great change for me. I wanted to release everything, really everything, as fast as possible as I can. That was a big change for me. So when I started to release, I did this all the time by myself, but I realized also at times it's good to have support. I worked with them, like Isa, especially Isa, Dr. Lindwall. He had this incredible clairvoyance off the charts. I've never seen anything, even since then. Somebody who is that clairvoyant, who can look into the very core, the heart of a person, and into previous lifetimes, other planes and dimensions, and help you and tell you what you can release. But I couldn't always have him with me, right? To tell me or others what to release. So I realized I have to do my best, ask for inspiration to release what I can. That's how the releasing journey started with me.
Yeah. Well, for me, very similar to Heiko in the sense of my deep connection to the divine. Ever since I was aware of it, that was when I was 5 years old. And I was in kindy, in a convent, CHIJ, in Chimes, right? That was my school. I grew up there from kindy to secondary 4. And so, well, it's a long story, but the connection with the divine, with God, going up a convent, I say Jesus, Jesus and God, that was very, very powerful for me. I would go to the chapel at 5 years old while waiting for my mother to come pick me up after kindy. And I would kneel by myself in that chapel, and I would pray and I would speak to God. And I was switched between Jesus and God, but I think Jesus for me was kind of closer. God seemed a little bit more distant, And I would do that almost every day. So, but no one knew about it. Like, I never mentioned it to my mother. It even at that point, I felt it was something very private. And I was only 5. So that connection stayed with me all through childhood, into my teens. And very pivotal events happened when I was 18. That was like a direct communication with Jesus. which moved me very, very deeply, and gave me a wish to be of service, basically, to Jesus. I would pray very much all the time. I would go to church in the afternoons by myself, and I would sit at the cross and I would ask, how can I be of service to you? What can I do for you? And so that led on to even deeper experiences. And by the time I hit my late 20s into my 30s, I was looking for ways to heal. I had a buzz in my hands that was so strong. It was very literal sensations. And I would squeeze my hands, or I would rub it along rough surfaces just to get rid of that buzzy energy that was in my hands. And I said, what is this? What is this feeling that I have? And then I thought, maybe it's to heal people. I don't know. And then Reiki came along. Reiki, that time I was 30 years old. So it was 30 years ago. I'm 60 now. And I went to Reiki, did all of the levels. I didn't do master level. And then with that, I went around healing everything and everyone I could get my hands on. I Reiki'd even animals, plants, anyone who came in my sphere. I would say, do you want me to Reiki you? And no one knew what Reiki was at that time, What's Reiki? So I had to explain Reiki to people around me. And I explored other healing modalities. I went for all kinds of different healing stuff. And I kept saying to myself, it's not deep enough. It's just not deep enough. How do you heal the soul? I could feel this depth that nothing else seemed to touch. And I had a very difficult childhood. So I had tons of things to release. I had a lot of pain, and I put myself through all different situations in life that were very painful. So I used to cry in silence alone. And then one day I said to myself, well, all of that pain must have a reason. It's not possible to accumulate and feel so much pain for nothing. There must be something in this. And I felt into it, and I said to myself, it lies in the future. I'm going to use this pain. And so by the time I was looking for healing modalities, I think I was looking for healing for myself, because I kept saying, it's not going deep enough. I wasn't thinking of myself, but I was thinking of others or general. But on a subconscious level, I'm sure I wanted to heal myself. So there wasn't anything that was reaching that deep. And then I met Heiko. Very faithful, absolutely destiny. And that's a whole story, miraculous story in itself, how I met him. And in the first 5 minutes of us sitting together, I said something, and Heiko said, oh, do you want to release that? And I said, yes. I said, how? And he gave me a releasing statement. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was a pain or an anger or something. And he made a releasing statement. I said, I release my pain, this or that. So I said it. And he said, do you feel better? And I said, oh, maybe a little bit better. And then we were together. We met for, I think, 3 days. And he left for Germany. But that statement I took with me, and I began releasing with people. Every time they said, I'm unhappy about this, or I'm angry about that, I said, oh, do you want to release that? And then they say yes. And I would just, tailor the releasing statement for them. And that's a very easy start for me in the releasing. And then we met up again in a few months after we first met, and we went for the releasing tour to Egypt with Isa and Yolanda, our teachers. 80 people on the Nile, releasing in Egypt, also our many past lives in Egypt, because they found that in their work, many people had past lives in Egypt, very significant lifetimes. And so did we. Although I didn't really know it then, in that sense that I'm going to go and release with about my Egyptian lifetimes, but I did. And on that ship was a very pivotal time for me, because I'd like to recount this story very shortly. But there was a woman on the ship that looked absolutely miserable. She looked like she was dying. She had eyes that were like stones, black stones in her face. And we looked at her together and we said, oh, it looks like she's dying or something's wrong. And then one day I touched her and hugged her and she started crying. And she said, who are you? Who are you? I didn't know what to say. I mean, I'm from Singapore, what do I say? She's from Germany. And she said, can you release with me? And I said, I don't know how. And she said, no, you can. And I said, no, I just started. I just discovering releasing. And she said, no, you come, you sit with me. And it turns out she had lost her husband. He died like a few months ago, and which explained why she looked the way she looked. But it came to a point where I couldn't go further with her. I couldn't go deeper. And I saw a very deep well of pain, and managed to get Heiko over to work with her. And then 3 hours of the deepest releasing, going into past lives of hers that he saw. And she was crying and crying from her depths. I was so shocked to see this, really, that this could happen. I had not even seen a real releasing session to that point. So that shocked me. And after 3 hours, she took her out of it. She was glowing. And she was smiling, and she hugged us and she said, thank you, you saved my life. And I was just stunned. I was shell-shocked. I didn't know what to say. And then we had to go change for dinner, and I was behind her as we were walking to our cabins. And there was a mirror along the way. And I was behind her, she stopped. She looked in the mirror and she was doing this to herself and just staring at herself in the mirror. I was watching her. Then I didn't see her for the rest of the evening. The next morning, when we docked and we were going onshore to a temple to visit, at the checkout counter, we had to sign out. She was next to me. And we turned around and looked at each other at the same time. And I could hardly believe my eyes. I thought she had black eyes. She had the bluest eyes, and they were shooting light. I mean, really, it felt like there was this light shining out of her eyes. I took a few steps back and I'm like, oh my God, like, what's this? And she was grinning from ear to just joy emanating. She looked 20 years younger. She had rosy cheeks. The skin was tight and shiny, and those blue eyes were just shooting light. I was so stunned to my soul. I'm like, oh my God. I said, this is soul healing. This is it. This is soul healing. And I went back. I didn't even go out onshore. I went back to the cabin and I cried. And I knelt down and I prayed to God. And I said, God, I would like to do this for my life. I said, this is what I do. I said, please let me do it. Please give me the gift to do this. I said, I want to bring this to my friends, to my family. And I was an interior designer at that point. I had my own firm. I totally forgot that I had that. I just said, I want to do this. Please give me the gift. And so this is how I started. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much both for sharing your journey and how you've got into this space. I love that it has always been present in both of you, and almost like you were guided to get to a place where spirit, divine source was able to say, hey, you're ready, it's time, after, bringing initiations, and Yeah, it's just very touching. So thank you so much for sharing that. And it's very clear how transformational releasing is and has been as a tool for you both in your work. So if you're able to share what releasing actually means and how does it feel, how does it heal physical pain or physical illness like cancer versus emotional pain like anger and shame and grief. Yeah, very curious to hear from you both.
Well, look, Dr. Lindwall, or as we say, Isa, that's his spiritual name. He is a chiropractor. He saw that when people were adjusted, sometimes the spine would go back out of position or a tense muscle would tense up again. And he was asking, why is that? So he was inspired one day to release for himself and with other people the emotion that was stuck in the energy field. It can be self-hate, it can be disappointment, it can be grief, but there's always something in the soul that is stuck there and disqualified energy that's not supposed to be there. And when he was inspired, which is a long story, beautiful story, then he released with clients, giving them releasing statements. So he would see what they need to release. For example, a little girl that had epilepsy. And he suggested to her to say, he said, you need to release your hate for your mother. And she says, I don't hate my mother. I love my mother. And he said, that is true, but someplace you did. So when after 10, 15 minutes, he got her to utter simply, nothing but utter the words, I released the hate for my mother. She screamed out and went to her mom and hugged her and sobbed. But since that day, she never had the epileptic seizure again. So as we say, it's really that the soul, the spirit, the awareness, consciousness that you are, is like, this is who you are. You don't have a soul, you are a soul. You are a spirit, you are consciousness, and you have a body, not the other way around. So you as consciousness use the brain as a computer operator. It sounds a bit cold, the analogy, but it's not. It fits so well. And the body is like the 3D printout, and the life is like the 3D printout. So whatever programs we have, positive, negative, gets printed out in our body, gets printed out in life. If it's self-sabotage or if it's self-love and self-care, it manifests somehow because in our essence, we are creators. So when we have negative programs, like I hate myself, or I will not allow myself to win, or I will not allow myself to be successful, that somehow gets printed out in life. And in many, many cases, things like self-hate manifest as energy or like cancer or illness and imbalance in the body. It's actually that simple. So we need to look what is in our heart, in our spirit, that is in balance. What negative thought or feeling do we carry inside, which then can be from this life, that we have a traumatic childhood, it can be negative self-talk, it can be programming from society, or it can be also from previous lifetimes. And there can be so many previous lifetimes. That means we had some joyful experiences and some painful experiences. Like Selina said, like in Egypt, many people had very powerful fate-changing experiences in Egypt. Yeah. And so when we remember what it is that we carry inside, we know what to release from this life or previous lifetimes. Now, what I found from the very first day when I met Isa and Yolanda in the releasing workshop, what I found so incredible was that you know about shadow work, you know about inner healing, you know about therapy, you know about breath work, you know about, and there's no comparing really, but you know, sometimes it's like a process that can take time, which is good, and it's great to use the time. It's worth it. But what I experienced was, and that is so incredible, it was so miraculous. And that's why I think Selina said, and me the same, like, I want to do this. That when I first saw Isa looking at a person, and he looked into their bodies and could see what imbalance there was, like, say, a vertebra was dislocated, or there was some program from a past life that created lower back pain, and you don't lie down, you don't breathe, and you don't massage, you don't even light an incense or play music. By simply saying the releasing statement that is precisely the program and energy that would create the block. Just by saying the releasing statement, even if you're in denial about it, even if you believe it's not true. Now, that was amazing for me. By saying enough trust to follow and utter the words, we've seen incredible biblical healings, physically and emotionally, just by one or two releasing statements. While many people, including us, released many things more. But what I found so profound, and I saw this, I thought, I want this. You know, he was so connected to Great Spirit, as they call it, you know, Spirit. That is the source of all it is, and his unconditional love, that by saying the right releasing statement, you could heal physical or mental, emotional illnesses sometimes in a minute. And we have experienced that since then too, also in our own work. We love to be really effective. We love that. We love to do it with people because we've seen so many great results that sometimes, and it's never a promise, but it has happened thousands of times, that by even a few releasing statements is like releasing a virus file from the hard drive. You know, if you show somebody releases a virus file from the hard drive, and then suddenly the internet works again, you can do banking again, your graphic program works, your Zoom call works, your printer works again, suddenly, what is that? That looks like a miracle. Well, miracles are natural. If you just find the file with the 010101 data and then press the delete button and release that. So that is sort of releasing in a zip file. And the beauty of that, what we love about releasing is it gives the power back to you, to the individual. You can come to us and to someone else to help you release, but the power to make the change and to release is within you. And that's what this time on this planet is all about, that we get back our sovereignty, that we like take our power back and not go through someone else, you know, that
But
we
you can,
Yeah.
but you don't have to.
And that's what we love so much. I loved it so much that I said, wow, I can do so much to better my own life. And also I saw his spiritual connection. I thought, I want that. That you can release blocks in all your chakras that would stop the energy from flowing, whatever it is. If it's in your heart, if it's in your throat, wherever it is, that you can release that and you would experience and really feel the change instead of doing something and then hoping for the best. Yeah.
Or having someone do it for you, but you're not sure what actually happened, and whether you could be able to do it for yourself.
Mm.
I think what you said, I mean, that was the main thing for me also, that I was just so thrilled that to have found something I can do on my own. That it is in my mouth, it's in my mind. I can simply say it. It's not just energy healing. It's not just, you know, some musical instrument I can't play. It is, I have the power to say it. I just be conscious what it is that's bothering me. How wonderful is that? That really got me. And I really wanted to spread it because the consciousness shift was immense, immense. The speed of it was immense.
We have worked with someone who couldn't hear, so we had to write the releasing statements on a piece of paper, and he repeated it. And after a while, his hearing got better, that we could talk to him and we didn't need to write it anymore.
He was deaf, yes.
And so and how is that possible? Well, think about the computer operator, the computer, and the printout. It is energy, it's information. So when I saw Isa, I thought, wow, the clairvoyance, that to tune in into other people and to find the energy that and information, the memory that people need to release. I thought, he has the best job in the world. So what you do in a releasing like session, how you can releasing, there are several ways. Not everyone has the ability to go straight to the core and see what you need to release. So like in the typical releasing session, you would, let's say, lie down or sit comfortably, and you guide it in a relaxation, simple as that. They open, you connect to your inner self. You can be an atheist, that's okay as well. You just connect to your heart, yeah? And that you then go inside and be open to let things come to the surface. And the most important thing that we have learned from Isa and Yolanda, from our teachers, was really that no matter what comes up, you don't judge. They were such a living example of unconditional love, but for real. For me, it was always they're the real deal. Talk about unconditional love. That to whatever memory comes up, no matter how dark it seems, whatever anger, rage, or hate would come from the subconscious, to not judge it, but to allow it to be expressed, to be communicated, to feel it, not to wash over it, to allow it to be expressed, and then release it.
Through releasing statements. That's what,
Yeah.
mainly.
We meet many clients that have first experienced that they unconsciously suppressed all the anger or rage or negative feelings programs, because they suddenly had the attitude, I want to live unconditional love, which is beautiful. I want to be in my spiritual integrity and I want to embody that. So I want to I want to live this now for real. But many people still don't know how to deal with all the stuff that is coming up, so that it still gets suppressed. It gets pushed under the carpet, and a positive attitude is simply chosen, which is honorable. Yet it doesn't make the negative feeling or the trauma deep inside go away. And that's what we learned from our teachers, that you can't skip that. You can't just wash over that. You can't just positive think it away. In fact, Dr. Lindwall, he when he was young, he used positive affirmation. He was jogging and said, I love myself, I'm healthy. I love myself, I'm healthy. I love myself, I'm healthy. While he was jogging, he learned it. And then the voice said, no, you don't. And then he noticed it. Wow, what is that? And then he said, I release to hate myself. While he was jogging. And he even noticed the shift, you see. And so they taught so much to not be afraid of all those negative thoughts and feelings that we wish to heal, but to really embrace them. And if it takes 10 steps more than you want, then it takes 10 steps. But always trust that process and do not judge it.
Thank you so much. I think something that I love a lot about the releasing work is that it's not just saying the releasing statements, even though it is that simple, but it's also feeling so deeply in the body. And it relates so much to the somatic work that I do. And I remember two mind-blowingly unbelievable sessions that I had with you both was, well, the first one was that when I recognized how I myself wasn't available for love because I was tangled up in my parents' relationship, which was my very first releasing session during the retreat in KL. The day after the retreat ended, I actually met my first love, and we have been together for almost a decade. And it was through that experience that made me see all the ways that I was blocking out love, and I didn't love myself the way I thought I did. And it was through all of the unconscious beliefs that I had no idea was around in the psyche. So that was really life-changing for me. And the second one was when my mom hadn't spoken to me for months. And I remember in that session, we had a soul conversation with my mother, and we released certain beliefs that I had towards my mother and also for the female line of my family. And it was at Basic Essence in Cluny Court. And when I crossed the overhead bridge to take the bus back home, my mother had texted me. And this was after months of not speaking, me reaching out and just nothing from her. And after that session, which was the first time that I worked directly on this situation with my mom, she reached out, and I remember just being so moved by the work that you both do and by how impactful it is, because my mother was not in the room. And yet when I released, something shifted in the energetic relationship between me and her. And I also recall in the retreat that I was in, there was someone who said like, oh, maybe I'll trick my parents into coming to this. And then you both were firm, like, no, they must come on their own free will. So I wonder if you could speak a bit about this, like how come the work shifts relationally? How come it can be impactful even when we are releasing on someone who has maybe passed, or someone who's just not in the room, yet the way they are is so different because of a session that a client did?
Well, as you know, we're all interconnected. As you know, the bodies seem separated, but our consciousness is non-local. There's a collective consciousness field, and by nature, we all have Wi-Fi in our hearts, in our minds. Yeah, we just need to experience that and trust that. And I love what you shared, how you experience this interconnectedness, how our consciousness has a connection with everything, with all life, actually with everybody, and that there's no limitation to that, and there's no distance and no time. And that is something that I have experienced through releasing too, and many people, that I realize how connected I am and how I can connect even if I'm not there. Like you said, in my heart, I speak in my Wi-Fi heart, right? I speak to someone that I need to express something to, that I have an issue with, that I maybe haven't forgiven, or who has hurt me, or I have hurt them, and that this communication is real. That this is even more real than a phone call because it's much broader in its energy.
And the essence that often is not spoken is felt. Okay, we always say it's felt through the astral life. This is your connection plexus. Energetically, feelings are felt there. So, you know, sometimes how you can know what people are feeling even if they're not expressing it. Yes? You're connected on Wi-Fi through the solar plexus. So when you release like this, you're releasing your own issues with someone, your feelings, your stuckness. It affects the other person. The other person is receiving your releasing and hearing it in the astral on other levels, because we also many people are used to thinking and feeling, believing that we only exist here in our body, but we exist multidimensionally. So when you are releasing your stuff connected to the other person is receiving this. When you say, will you please forgive me? The person's soul gets it, feels the remorse. When you speak to the person on a soul level, just visualizing them, you are connecting already Wi-Fi. And you speak your heart. The other person gets it. So the shifts can occur. This is so powerful. You don't even have to go to that person. If you visualize them and you speak your heart, they get it. That's how the shifts can occur. Also, karmically, when you have a karmic tie with someone, let's say it's a painful karmic tie, and you've had so much in the past where you've done each other wrong, caused pain to each other. And if you see that in a releasing session, for example, it comes up in the session, you see the dynamics, what happened before. And let's say you were the perpetrator of the pain and you realize what you've done, you feel remorse, you say, can you please forgive me? Yeah. The other soul gets it totally, immediately. Doesn't matter if they're alive, doesn't matter if they're still in your life, they get it on a soul level. And then the karma is balanced. By them saying, yes, I forgive you, the karma is balanced, it's done. Instead of going through lifetime after lifetime, maybe I take revenge on you, then you get mad, you take revenge on me, and it just keeps snowballing. Yeah, families get involved, and very, very complex.
You hurt me, and then you incarnate as my mother-in-law, and then whatever. Isn't it beautiful? And when you sit down and with all sincerity, see, it has to be real. And you know when it's real. Nobody has to tell you. And when you sit down and say, I'm speaking now in my heart to all beings that I've ever heard or harmed in all my lifetimes, in all planes and dimensions, those I remember and those I don't remember. I'm speaking now, and I wish to balance everything with you that's between us. And in every way that I've ever hurt you, by words, actions, or non-actions, I ask you, please balance this with me. This is real, and this really happens. And you might have memories coming up, and you can apologize, or you have others come and apologize to you. And that is extremely powerful, extremely beautiful, and liberating. Isn't it amazing? That means we are not limited by 3D distance. And it's so powerful if we simply say, and say, I surrender to this. I surrender to love and truth. Radically.
This is the quantum field we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is the quantum field in action. And you can be doing that every single day, anytime, wherever you are.
And if you maybe if you have any pride to do that, whatsoever, you can always say, I release all resistance to balance this. I release all resistance to ask for forgiveness or to apologize, or to forgive.
I release my
step by
pride.
step.
Yeah. I release my fear to be the wrong one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I release my need to always be right. Or I release my fear of punishment. There's so many layers that would come up. And instead of noticing them, you speak it out and you really release it. And that's extremely powerful. I'm so glad that you shared that, because it was so real for you that when you walked over that bridge, suddenly that message came after so long, and it was real. Yeah. And so beautiful, so healing.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. As you were sharing, I was just feeling like tingles and tenderness in my heart space and my solar plexus. Steph has been, such a vital part of my journey ever since I stepped in this space like almost 2 years ago. And I feel that as you're sharing, a lot of how she's shown up also contributes to the work that you have done together. So I just want to, share that and express that. And as you both were sharing, I felt very touched because no matter what we believe in, what we're going through, everyone has a heart. Everyone has a heart. And this from this space, we are able to come back to our power, that we have so much power in a way that we can support ourselves and heal ourselves. So yeah, that was really beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm very curious, as space holders or people who's been doing this work for a while, what are some of, if any, most significant challenges that you've faced in your journey, whether it's personal, only if you're comfortable sharing, or professional, that significantly supported the growth of your work?
Good question.
Well, I remember when you talk about challenging or considering the work, we had several experiences with when it came to entities, spirits or dark entities or really dark entities who were in the energy field of people. And we've done that quite a lot over the years. So sometimes
To release with them.
yeah, to release the entities, to release with a person, to release the entities. Yeah. And that we have experienced first with our teacher too, who was a master at releasing entities or demonic beings from people, from the energy field, that they sometimes didn't even know they had. And we saw, and whenever there seems to be a tough one, so to speak, it was so, we feel so grateful that we had teachers like that who had this strong connection and trust in spirit to align with source, which is a broadband connection, I call it. Yeah. And through that, such a sovereignty, trust, confidence, and power to deal with negative entities, sometimes quite easily, but at first it can be, of course, challenging. That is one example that, like many times, now there were a few battles.
And those incidents that you talk about that peppered our entire career with dark entities, every time they were released or overcome, it gave us so much confidence and a feeling of our presence or personal power, and how God would use us, the divine energy when it comes in to deal with that, what was in front of us that seemed so, it's like watching The Exorcist, right? Sometimes it was like that. I don't know if you've ever seen a movie. I think you all are too young. You seen it? You seen it? Yeah, it can be very scary, I think, if we're not centered. But when the divine presence comes in to support us, then there is no fear at all. It's very, very stern, very straight, very all-encompassing. There would be no question that this entity would not listen. And that is a real exercise in being instruments of God. Yeah, such an experience. That is one challenge. I feel, for me personally, other challenges would be like if we have a client who is not open. That's very difficult. Of course, they book the session, you think that they're open, since they pay money and spend time to lie in front of us, but sometimes they're not open, they're closed. So that could be challenging. For me, maybe that's the most challenging, because it requires so much patience and energy. Like every time we say something, it would be like a no resistance, and so it's like on average, we can release maybe 2 or 3 issues, more than 1 issue. But let's say we get a very resistant client, maybe release half an issue. And for me, that would be a challenge. But it says a lot too in the journey to where am I coming from that I am so frustrated, for example, or feel so drained. What is it in me that I feel that way? That is a huge thing that I had to discover too.
We can't be too invested as
We
well and
cannot.
have to surrender. Sometimes it's not meant to be, and we release our need to release with someone. Yeah.
Yes, we release the need for them to have positive results, quick results, absolute results, you know, to just be and flow with them. If they are resistant, okay, release as much as can be released in a session.
That's
Rather than be ambitious, because we have so many fantastic results in our work that it sets up an expectation. Oh, what could be if this person were open? Oh my gosh, they can experience so much that would change their lives. But it's not possible because they are not. So there's what we and I had to learn in the first years very, very much. Yeah.
So you can't let the ego get in the way. For that, we had really good teachers to simply surrender. If it's then not meant to be, it's not meant to be. Yeah. And that is, if it wouldn't be so effective, that would be easier. But if you, let's say, you see someone driving a car and you know exactly this handbrake, if you just loosen that handbrake, your depression could be over. Your marriage could improve and your career could improve and your health this way. But somebody says, I like it like that.
Oh, I don't have a handbrake. I have no handbrake. What do you mean? Handbrake is on. There is no handbrake.
Yeah. And so that's a learning process. That is very interesting. Yeah. And then where you as a supporter, as a releaser, healer, you have to learn and release yourself for yourself. Yeah. To find the balance, to find the center. Where, like Celine said, where are you coming from? Yeah.
And I think other personal challenges along the journey would be, especially in the beginning, it was tough. We felt to break through, to bring releasing to Singapore. We were pioneering releasing in Singapore. Actually, in the whole of Southeast Asia, we were pioneering, and we had to explain what it was. In the seminar world, they call it butts in the seat. Yeah. Have you got butts in the seat? And so the marketing would be to bring butts in the seat. And so that was tough to pioneer releasing for Malaysia, not just Singapore, but Malaysia too.
No, it was worth it. And we knew what is possible. So our focus was simply just do a good job. Yeah. And do the best you can and surrender the rest, that you don't get personally invested too much. Yeah. But we love to bring it as a gift, and our teachers supported us greatly too. And then it happened.
I love that. I feel like hearing that it's a reminder of non-attachment, even though we know how great the work can be when someone's open, but it really depends on where the person or the community, how open or ready their ego is, or where they are on their soul's journey that allows them to fully receive this work and to open themselves to their fullest potential.
Yes.
And who am I to say somebody should do this or should do that, or this is better for you? Who am I to say you can't keep that? If you choose to that's okay. So that is then again respect. Yeah, that's real respect, to not judge anyone's journey. Yeah. So then, and if I would sense it in myself, I release it. I release the judgment or whatever it is I need to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we a lot about ourselves from clients, so they help us release and clear as well.
A lot, and I'm prompted to remember how I was over responsible for the healing of the people. In the early years, whenever we did our retreats, we would do retreats almost every month of a year. And in the first years, I would have such a terrible ache on my shoulders. It was so painful. and I couldn't release it. I would say I released all over responsibility, but it was so deeply ingrained that I wanted the people to heal, that I will go through an entire retreat with this pain and also not sleep. I didn't sleep the entire retreat. In the night, I would have visions of the people's past lives and the pain they went through, and some are very gory and things like that. And I would just lie there tossing and turning, and I couldn't sleep. And the next day I would be on, right? So it was very exhausting and very painful. But it really brought me to the fact that I was very over-responsible. And I had to work on myself to let that go until I could do retreats where I slept like a baby and had zero pain. Yeah, I would go to bed at night and say, okay, everyone, I'm not working with you tonight. We work tomorrow. Yeah, I'll let you go. Everybody go to rest. I need my rest and not feel bad about it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a powerful reminder, especially for all of us in the helping profession. Where is that line between wanting to be of support and then or wanting to like kind of manage someone's journey?
Yes.
And you have to release saviorship in other
Yes,
things.
that's what.
I wonder if you could share a story about maybe a memorable releasing session, like a profound breakthrough session that you both remember till this day.
There were a few.
For example, when like Farida, yeah, we can share together that like we were brought to a hospital in Malaysia by a friend, and she was lying in hospital for a long time already, and her intestines were all knotted up inside. She had a tube coming out of the side of her body. She couldn't eat.
And the doctors didn't know why. It was baffling for them how her intestines could be knotted up, and they could not operate because she would die. So they left her lying there for 4 months.
And they didn't know simply, I'm sure they were great doctors, but they simply didn't know what else to do. And so when we went to the room, she was there and she was really just skin and bones. Yeah, but she was weak. She could talk, but very weak. She couldn't sit up.
She whispered to us. She said, my life is hanging by a thread. In a very soft whisper.
So we aligned with spirit. We tuned in, asked for the guidance, tuned in, and started releasing with her whatever we saw, whatever came up. And it became stronger. After a while, she started to sweat. Energy came in. She resonated very much with what we suggested to her to release. Very often, for example, intestines have to do with allowing yourself to be who you really are. Let's say you have clairvoyant abilities, but you're in an environment where you think there's no space for this. No, I cannot allow myself to live that gift. Yeah?
And that's what happened for her. She was clairvoyant since she was a child, but she was Muslim. In her Muslim community, in her particular Muslim community, not all Muslims, they were very frightened and they thought it was something evil. So she had to stop being who she is. She had to shut down her gift. And that was the root cause of what happened with her intestines.
So we released with her, the feeling that she's not allowed to be who she really is, to express, among many, many other things.
There was past life as well.
Yeah. We released with her that blocking, not allowing her true, authentic self. And one after the other, we just kept releasing with her whatever we saw, whatever came up.
And then at the end of the session, it was about 2 hours, she sat up, perspiring, really drops, pouring sweat. And she said, oh, what is this power coming into me in a strong voice? But we had another appointment, very urgent. We were already late. So we said, we blessed her and we said, we really have to go. We're going to be okay. And then we did our thing in KL and we left. And 5 days later, we remembered Farida. We called our friend Andrew, who brought us to see her. Andrew, how is Farida? He called her and called us right back. And he said, you know, I called Farida and she said, Andrew, as I'm talking to you, I'm on my handphone walking out of the hospital. We danced in the house. We were like, oh my God, we were in tears. She said the doctors could not understand how that very next day, her intestines started to unknot all on their own. Can you imagine? I mean, like that made the biggest impact on us.
So when you release whatever virus is in your hard drive, whatever is there, the energy can shift on all levels, down to the physical atoms, molecules, to the muscles, and which are just energy also, and can rearrange and fall back into harmony and in the fastest time. Because when there's nothing anymore that stops the energy from falling back into place, it can. There is not much time needed. And that is actually, miracles are natural.
And I have another one is a mental illness. Would you like to hear that one? So this woman in a retreat, when Heiko counted down everybody, she started speaking in a child's voice and saying, where's my mother? Where's my mother? And I said, well, how old are you? And she said, I'm 8 years old. And then I said, where's your mother? And she said, she's in hospital. She has schizophrenia. And she said, she always goes to hospital. I don't know where she is. And in our studies, especially with family constellation, one of the principles in family constellation for autism and schizophrenia, as they discovered, is that it is a generational thing, that along the generations, somewhere in the past, there was a killing. And the killing was among family members, like family member killed a family member. And then the people involved were ostracized and excluded from the family. And one of the principles of family constellation is no member of the family can be excluded from the family. If anyone is excluded, including miscarried or aborted children, excluded means you're not talked about, you're forgotten. The descendants of the people who were excluded will attempt on a soul level to include these excluded members on a subconscious level to bring balance to the family. And that's where mental illness becomes a generational thing, whether it's autism or deep depression or suicide and leading to suicide and schizophrenia and all of that. We're not saying that's the only reason, but that's what family constellation discovered. So, and then I was kind of baffled what to do, because this is not, she doesn't have schizophrenia, her mother has schizophrenia. And then I heard, do the process. Just do it. Just do the process with what you know. So then I guided her up the generations. She was in the alpha state. So I said, do you feel this happened more than a generation ago, the root cause? So she went up to the 7th generation and stopped there. And she says, 8th generation was a no, 7th generation was a big yes. And suddenly it opened in front of her. She saw a murder scene of parents killing their son. And then the parents were arrested and hung. So that was a generational thing. But her mother was also the mother in that lifetime, who murdered the child. So it was a double whammy. So she released for her mother. She released for her mother. She released for her mother, all guilt and shame and all of that. And then she opened for the entire bloodline to accept the parents again in that generation, to include them. So it was a long session. It was about 2 to 3 hours. But a week later, she wrote an email to say a miracle happened the day after the retreat. She was from KL. She went to Penang where her mother was living to visit. And she said, the mother said to her and her brother, I want to go shopping. She says, do you know what that means? She said, my mother for 10 years only sat at home, never went out. She would chain smoke, drink coffee, and watch TV. If you say go out, she would say, I'm too tired. Her mother said, let's go out. I want to go shopping. So family was all shocked, brought her out. She did her hair, she bought makeup, she bought clothes. She shopped till the shops closed. So she said, our clients, everyone was exhausted except my mother. She was just like full of energy, right? And she said, and the rest of the week, she was cooking, cleaning. Her father could not understand what was going on. He says, I have my wife back, but what happened? She suddenly become normal again, like, what's going on? So that made a huge impact on us, as you can imagine, because to be able to release for someone with such a serious condition of more than 30 years, deep schizophrenia, that's huge. And that was a very pivotal and monumental landmark in what can be done with such deep mental illness.
And it's possible to release for someone else. Many people were ask about that. So yes, you can in general release for other people if the soul allows it. Look, Malvina, if you give me a password for your email, I can go in and all the trash mail, all the spam mail and virus mail I can release for you. But I have, respecting your free will, I have your password, right? And similar it is on a soul level. If the soul agrees, you can release for someone else. Otherwise, it will just bounce back, but no harm is done. That's important too. It will just bounce back.
Mm.
And we've seen that many, many times that we can release for other people too. And it shows very obviously as well.
Wow, thank you actually for sharing that analogy. I feel like it's very important to point that out, that, you know, we're still honoring other people's sovereignty. But yeah, like you shared, everything's connected and we can release for ourselves and other people. Just through everything that you've shared, I've come to understand like a deeper sense of what releasing can do. Because we all often think, oh yeah, you release, you know, it's all about making space so new things can come through. But you guys have like shared it in such depth that's just so mind-blowing. So I feel like this would be a perfect time for you guys to take us through some releasing statements on whatever theme you feel like would be relevant for the collective at this point in time.
Happy to. So
Let's release with them the whole karmic thing, because they will impact on such a deep level.
Okay.
Everybody.
So as you are there now, both of you, and everyone then who listens to this, you can simply sit down. You can close your eyes or not close your eyes, just relax very naturally. And you can say, I ask all beings and souls.
You can speak it out. See, I ask all beings and souls
that I've ever hurt or harmed in all times and dimensions
through the misuse of my power and in any other way
to please come now and balance this with me. And I will allow it.
and take a deep breath.
And you can say and speak out loud, I release all guilt and shame for all the times I've hurt or harmed any being. I release all hate for myself for that. I release all decisions to punish myself for that.
And I release all ideas that what I had done is unforgivable. So I release all decisions I made to close my heart in order to be able to hurt others or harm them or destroy them. And I release all ideas that I was right in doing so. I release to justify my actions. Take a deep breath. And say, I make a new decision now to fully open my heart again. Say to all these souls and these beings, they are not just souls of humans, you know, they are also beings and entities. You've lived a long, long time. You've dealt with all kinds of beings. You say, I'm very sorry for what I've done. I take full responsibility for my actions. Will you please forgive me? And breathe. And feel inside. Hear inside. Do you hear that you are forgiven?
You can also say, I release my decision to never ever allow forgiveness for myself. And I open myself to allow it.
I receive forgiveness. I free myself from guilt. And I forgive myself. Now I know better. So I do better.
Say, I know releasing our guilt does not mean I'm avoiding responsibility.
And now you say, I call all souls, all beings who have ever hurt or harmed me, to come now and balance this with me.
And I will allow it.
I acknowledge that, like me, you did the best you could with the programs and consciousness that you had at that time. And I open myself to forgive you.
And should anyone come to your mind, any faces that you not feel ready yet to forgive, you please don't force it. If you're not ready yet, if there are certain peoples you're not ready yet to forgive, you simply let it be and don't force it. but in your heart, you open yourself to forgive anyone that you can forgive.
I release the anger for myself for putting myself in situations to be hurt or harmed. And I forgive myself. I really forgive myself. And so it is. And take a deep breath. Yeah.
And you say, and I thank myself and choose to love myself. So it is.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for allowing us and letting us.
Yeah, thank you. My whole body is tingling, and I feel like across my heart chakra, there's this horizontal line of just massive vibration.
Beautiful.
So the releasing with calling all beings and souls to come to balance with you, hurt and harm that you've caused them, and hurt and harm that they've caused you. This is a very, very important move for your soul. And we learned about this in probably around 2002 in a workshop with our teachers, Isa and Yolanda in Germany. There were 50 of us. And just before lunch, Yolanda said to us, when you come back from lunch, just come straight in and lie down. And those who don't want, you don't have to be there. You can just feel in your soul if you want to lie down with everybody else. So of course we all laid down, like who would miss whatever's going to happen, right? And as when we laid down, she brought us through this exercise that we took all of you through. At the end of that, she did a channeling. She sat down and she says, I have a message from a being who wants to talk about what you just did. And she said, and so she channeled this entity who said this: we were in council quite recently in your earth time. And we looked at humanity and we determined that humanity's consciousness has a very long way to go and that you're not ready. And then it said, but today what happened is a milestone in the consciousness of humanity. That 50 of you laid down and took responsibility and asked for forgiveness and forgave others was a leap in human consciousness that we had not expected of humanity. It said, all of the heavens are celebrating. You have set free hundreds of thousands of souls in this exercise from karmic bindings with all of you. You have set hundreds and thousands of souls free. And there is a great celebration. And then it said, now we and all of us, and if I included all the souls who were set free, would like to shower you with gifts or blessings. And then it just said, and gifts. So we were not sure what gifts were being showered on us. And we just laid there, very still. And then it said, You are not the same people now as who you were when you walked in here this morning. That was the message. So it was really huge. And I was so moved, I downloaded the entire thing in my memory bank. Yeah, and I determined that we would be doing this with everyone that we worked with and groups, and to set everybody free, because this is the fast track way to evolve on such a massive level, to balance your karma as much as can be balanced in one exercise like this.
And we have seen with many, many people and many groups. It's beautiful. Look, usually when there's something there, an issue there, there's often blame, justification, guilt, and shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the next step in evolution for us to become who we really are is to take responsibility without guilt, without blame, without shame. And that is not just a little tweak in the psyche. There's not just it's a real shift in our core. Yeah. And that is why so powerful and so life-changing when you own things and you forgive. And you forgive yourself especially.
Yeah. It moves us from a place of helplessness and powerlessness to taking back our personal power.
Yes. Yes, when you blame, you are saying someone else did it to me, and so I can't change it. But the moment you take responsibility, you're saying, I did it in my power, and because I can do it, I can undo it. I can recreate it. Yeah.
It brings it all back to the remembrance that we are all creators.
Yes. And to take responsibility for your creation, your life.
Thank you so much. To close, if you both have any wisdom, any insight that you might like to share with our listeners and our audience
We are
today.
back full, so we have to choose which one. What I find is so, in all these years experiencing releasing and seeing that it's possible, it comes always back to the truth that has revealed itself to us, that in the same way, there's no ice that can't be melted. Yes? Is that true? There's no ice that you put in the sun and say, no, this is too cold, this is too old, this is too big, this can't be melted. Yes? In the same way, there's no pain that can't be healed. So pain is just like frozen energy. Hate, we used to say hate is just frozen love. So there's nothing too big that it can't be healed. And at the same time, one very, very empowering and freeing truth is that what you release can't hold on to you. What you release releases you. And if you really take that in and realize, you go, wow, that key to freedom is really with me.
You know, we're so telepathic. I already knew what he was going to say. Seriously. I knew you were going to say that.
See?
Yes.
Yeah, that happens the more you release with your family and friends. You become more tuned and telepathic. And that's how we often release together too. I start a sentence, Selina finishes it. Or the other way around.
And I would say also the biggest investment that you can make is to work on yourself and release. It's the biggest investment. Everything else you leave behind when you leave your body. And the only thing you take with you is what you freed yourself from on the soul level. It goes into eternity. Yeah, the spiritual work and the work on yourself lasts eternally. This is the main and only investment, I would say, worth it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to you both. How would our listeners find both of you?
Well, we're right here. You can go to thepowerofreleasing.com.
Okay, powerofreleasing.com.
We have a Telegram channel. You can search Heiko and Selina Niedermeyer, The Power of Releasing Telegram. And it's on the Telegram channel that we put up our announcements for our events and other information. We give releasing statements there quite regularly. So it's good to join our Telegram channel. On Facebook, we are Heiko and Selina Niedermeyer.
Okay, amazing. We will put that on our description when we post this podcast.
And thank you too for
Thank
being
you both.
so
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Transcend. Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a while since I've felt this much in my body, just having, during like a recording and a conversation of this caliber. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for the work that you've done or continue to do. Thank you, Stephanie, for inviting your teachers and sharing them with me and to the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Sending love to all.